it started, I think, 81 when I did a movie with David Weiss, which also will be in the show in the beginning, the Red and Bear movie. And Red and Bear are doing diagrams in that movie. And at a certain moment when they look at all the diagrams, which explains the world, they say, suddenly this overview. So this is where the title comes from. And so we were thinking about like the encyclopedia, which today nearly doesn't exist no more because we have Wikipedia. So it was to make encyclopedia that mixes the so-called unimportant moment with the important moments, so that you have no more hierarchy of what is relevant in the world. Because for me, maybe a personal little story is the same important than a big historical event. When we did the first show with suddenly this overview, we looked at it that this is a project that we did, but then soon after that, maybe 1 year later, we were invited to show the clay sculptures in Cologne. And so we said, oh, we're gonna do some new ones. So it was also just like each time we had the offer to show that work, we added. But it was not that we made them constantly. And sometimes there was also, maybe we were waiting 5 years doing nothing. Because it's an encyclopedia, and an encyclopedia that is very generous, also open for unimportant things. So you can imagine like everything can be a sculpture for suddenly this overview, or like potentially everything can be. But it was, the rules were not changing. It's not that we stayed always with this material, and we stayed also with the same categories that we made, which would be like sport, science, personal memories, entertainment. All these categories would be the same. But then maybe also things that happened in the world would become part of that, yeah. Well, also with the titles or the situations, we tried not just illustrate an important moment of history. And mostly it was like shortly before or shortly after or in the meantime. So it was already a gap between the real historical moment and what happens in reality. An example would be Mr. and Mrs. Einstein after conceiving their son. So it's not the moment when the historical thing happens, it's before or after or parallel, yeah. It's all about like realizing also the filter of your personal attention that you have to the world, how it comes to you, and this is always built in. So it's clear that like in 81, when we talk about pop culture or entertainment, it was something else than today. So it shows something about like the time when the sculpture is made. In the last year, I started to work really more precise on the archive and the estate of Fischli Weiss. And so I went to the exhibition history of suddenly this overview, And then I suddenly saw, oh, we chose this blue light for the first show. And we wanted to make a comment against the sentimentality of the clay material. Clay back then was a material that artists would not really use it's more like for hobby or kindergarten or therapy. So it's like all this like kind of negative quoted for great art. So we were attracted to the material because of that, because of the bad image that the material has. We wanted to make a comment about it, and you can make a comment of making a contrast atmosphere to the material. So the bluish cold neon is like the anti-sentimental light for looking at clay.